afternoon. Hello again if you're returning. Let's get into it. Darujistan, a city of blue fire and assassins. It's quite nice to be back in a familiar place with some familiar characters, especially this far into the series. And, as we return to a familiar place, it feels as if we're coming to the end of a cycle. Unfortunately, quite a few characters died in this novel. Murillo's death hit me especially hard because it felt almost unfair to Murillo how he was cheated out of a fair duel while he was doing the right thing to save his friend's child. Speaking of his friend, Stony and Grundle are back in this one. Not the biggest fan of Stony's story in this one. I just don't like the, oh, I'm so sad and alcoholic now. Let me push away everyone who cares about me. It's kind of depressing, honestly. Grundle, on the other hand, now I like this. Signed on with the Trigale Trade Guild, who just happened to be transporting Mappo Trell. This I like. Grundle, the grizzled, serious veteran, is now working for the frankly ridiculous Trigale Trade Guild. I like the Trade Guild characters. They're a breath of fresh air in the rather dark rest of the book. And some of those darker chapters are those of the TC Andi. After the destruction of the bridge burners and the death of Itkoven, the TC Andi have settled in Black Coral. Unsurprisingly, the locals do not like them, because why should they? It's not as if crime has gone down now that TC Andi are running the city. Another interesting thing in these chapters is the fact that Itherkin has actually ascended into godhood. He is now known as the Redeemer. Seer Domin, who is, funnily enough, a former Seer Domin, has an interesting relationship with the Redeemer in this book. He goes out to the shrine, not to pray, but just to keep the Redeemer company. Honestly, I was kind of ambivalent to these chapters. I didn't hate them, I certainly didn't love them either, but I suppose they were interesting enough. The wider storyline of the dying god trying to consume Mythcoven I found quite fascinating, though. Overall, the Andi chapters in this book were a bit too much for me. They were all very deep and introspective, which I like sometimes, but they were like that for the whole book, which got kind of annoying. Also, Eldest Salon kind of worships Adamancer, and it feels almost creepy in a way. Jumping from Black Coral back to Darujistan, I liked most of these chapters. Seeing the bridge runners again felt really nice, even if they were being hunted by assassins the whole book. Along with them, I really liked seeing Barathol just completely shove the Blacksmith's Guild to the side and start up his own shop. The man has been through so much, he just doesn't care about the guild and his rules, and I gotta admire that. Alright, I've gone on for long enough. Time to talk about the ending. Anomander Rake kills Death himself, then is killed by his own sword. Hood brings his legions of death back with him into the sword, where they fight back the armies of chaos threatening to destroy it. Side note here, Hood in these books seems like a pretty cool guy. Reminds me a lot of Death from Discworld. Back on topic, this is perhaps one of the most over-the-top finishes to one of these books ever, and I love it. The craziness of the final battle doesn't really come off as wacky or funny, but as chaotic and horrifying as I feel it was intended. There is much more I could talk about here, from Kaladin Brood bearing Anomander's body to the sword fight between Spinach Durev and Kalor, but there is simply too much, which I feel may start to be a problem in the last two books to come. There were, being generous, 8 separate storylines to follow here. In order to cap off all of these stories in the best way, each of them needs a satisfactory ending. I am less confident than I once was that this can be done, but I still hold out hope. Toll the Hounds was a good book. I enjoyed it. However, there were some flaws, and I definitely don't think it was the best Malazan book. Well, thank you for watching. Come again soon.